what I know and what I've read and what I've sort of studied and tried to be on top of is that selection process is no joke, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into that, and there are people that I've listened to that have written books and whatever else. I'm sure you have too, that come from the world of and what the society and public, particularly Western society, is propped up as, these guys that are at the top of their game.
Right.
They work for other agencies or other special forces branches or in different branches of the military. So without getting too deep into that, can you talk a little bit about this? Because you went from I'm bored. I don't want to rescue people out of
Toilets
or, and bathtubs and whatever too. I think I'm going to be an Army Ranger now. Like that's not something you just fucking do, man. Like it's that's something that takes a ton of, a commitment, and you just flashed like 10 years of your life, like I said, in a couple minutes. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of the experience and what you picked up along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I first wanted to go into it, I did a lot of research. I talked to some people that had done it before, got in contact, obviously a recruiter knew people, so I can actually talk to humans.
Yep.
And really understood hey, as a Ranger, it's an elite version of the infantry. So if you imagine the regular Army, it's kind of like a patrol cop, and the SWAT team is kind of like the Ranger Regiment, right? So it's very direct. Your job is specific. So you don't drive around and wait for people to shoot at you and then you're oh, now we do stuff. It's we specifically target things and specific pretty much entities, right? And those entities get targeted in certain ways depending on the different types of intel that you can receive. And then from there, it's it's a direct action mission, right? You directly go there, you do the things you need to do, you capture the people you want to capture, and wrap up the good old present that you got there, and then go back to the base.
Deliver it. That was the job.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you don't handle any of interrogation stuff. That's not your job. Ours was literally go there, do the thing, collect any of the things that we need to, and then when we get back, we hand that all off to analysts and people like that. And then from there, we go to the gym and we work out, we eat a little bit, we maybe play video games, we go to sleep, and we wake up again. Do it again. So, and it was mostly at night. So playing as a nocturnal animal or a nocturnal hunter, right? Or predator, you can say. And that's essentially it. And it was just really nonstop work for the years that I was in. There were little stints where hey, we don't have anything for a week or something. But unless we were shut down for an incident or something like that, it was nonstop. And it was a lot of fun. It ended up being one of those things you get worn out really quick. So our deployments were only about 120 days long.
Only?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a big Army does a year. So
but if you're going every night,
it feels like forever. So yeah, it's exactly it. It wears you out quite a bit, but you do rotations. So the next battalion comes and takes over for you, and then eventually the next one comes after them, and then you repeat that process as there's only 3 battalions. So it's very interesting, and it's kind of nice because you don't have what is our job? It's very, very specific. Where the big Army has so many different facets where they have to do, somewhat of the hearts and minds things. They have to do some form of patrolling, some kind of security force things. So they have a lot of different angles that they could take jobs through, where the Ranger Regiment's very specific. And it's really cool, in the sense of the brotherhood that comes afterwards, right? Anybody that you meet that's a Ranger, whether you knew them or you didn't, or they were an era, 10 years prior to you or anything like that, you're almost immediately friends. And it's all right, I can hang out with them, And it's a very similar type of personality and people. The Ranger Regiment doesn't take non-athletes, right? Everything's expected that you're we have a program, or we had back then a program called Ranger Athlete Warrior. So everybody was a long distance runner and everybody could pretty much carry their weight and plus more. So it was pretty amazing to see that many fit dudes. And Not just that, but like essentially A-type personalities that just wanted to go do things that were bad to bad people for their fucking country.
Look, man, I've heard, like I said, I consider myself well read. I've studied stuff, and part of this, what you're mentioning here is I'm listening to you talk, and I don't really know what I mean when I say this, but I'm just going to say it outright. Like, people listening to you, like, dude, this dude's just so mellow. Like, he's just so controlled. Like, he seems like he had everything so planned out, and it seems natural for you to be talking about it. But my experience, again, and just my outside experience, and this is mine, not everybody's like you, Jon. Right? Like, so not everybody had that same experience, right? The way you're talking about it is just very like matter of fact. And, this is just what we did. And I signed up for it. And I knew this is what I wanted to do and whatever. Were you caught off guard? I mean, was there anything that really surprised you, or did you handle it the same way you're handling this conversation right now?
Most things I handled it like this. I'm a pretty chill dude. Okay. I get hyper sometimes. I get excited. I get like, I jump around a lot, depending on what we're doing. But mostly I'm a pretty chill guy. Like handling life more neutral, if you want to call it that, or some people call it stoic. I think you handle things differently, but you also leave capacity for your brain to think. Where people that are extremely emotional or extremely emotional downward, in the negative land, they don't leave room for themselves to think and ponder and figure things out and solve issues and solve problems ahead of them because their brains are focused on emotions. And not to say I don't have emotions, I definitely do, like we all do, but I really try to be just more relaxed. There's no need to be too uptight and things like that.
Where did this come from? Because again, going back, like you hear stories or you talk to people. You went into this at a young age. You'd made a decision. You did research. That was a whole other thing. Like now people, they don't do that background work to set themselves up for success long term. You talked about that earlier. It's like I researched, I studied, I knew what I wanted to do. I got this contract. My ASVAB score was where it needed to be. Where did this mellowness, stoicism, control, and that's what I see. It's just you have a really, there's a high sense of awareness, of what you're saying, how you're saying it, when you're doing it, and how to do it the right way to get it across to people. And we're going to talk about that as we get into what you're doing now as a coach. But where did that come from?
I think it just came with experience.